Welcome to the albums that saved us. This time, we're talking about the concerts that saved my life. I've seen a lot of concerts. My first concert was Duran Duran in 1987 on the Strange Behaviour Tour with Erasure opening, and Andy Bell in a red leather wrestling outfit forever burned into my mind. The sights, sounds, smells at that first San Diego Sports Arena show set the bar for me. So now if I go there and see the hazy smoke, smell pot, it brings me back to that very first Duran Duran show. Several months later, I saw Depeche Mode for the first time, and that was even better. I was hooked. I loved live music and seeing the bands I loved live. There's nothing like a good live show. There are those moments that are transcendent and take you into an alternate reality, and that's why I love music and a good live show. Music should change your life, and a good live show can change your life. So that first Duran Duran ticket was maybe $20, and I think I bought a ticket for my girlfriend at the time. I got the cheapest shirt, which I think was $15. I don't have it anymore, but I think it goes for hundreds of dollars on eBay right now. At the time, I believe I was either working at Thrifty Drugs making $4 or $5 an hour, or at a video store not making much more. Concerts were expensive, and that was several hours of work to go see a band. And especially when it's a date, she's expecting dinner. Maybe she wants you to buy her a shirt. You're supposed to buy her the ticket. It's a lot. You're talking about maybe $100 back at the time when you're making $4 or $5 an hour. Eventually, when I was a freshman in college, I fell for the Citibank, "Hey kid, need money?" trick, which opened my concert ticket world. Back in those days, you used to have to get up super early and line up, usually at Warehouse Records, who sold Ticketmaster tickets. So you'd go, you'd stand in line, and hopefully the show didn't sell out. At some point, you could call in, but concerts would still sell out quickly. At some point, I discovered a hidden Ticketmaster in the back of the mall's May Company. You could get a May Company credit card, and they'd take it. I bought so many tickets there, so many more than at the warehouse, or even on the phone. Duran Duran, Depeche Mode, U2, Morrissey, New Order, INXS, so many more. I think Mayco is out of business now because I stopped buying concert tickets. My college girlfriend at the time had a knack for winning tickets from radio stations. She worked at the local newspaper, pimping subscriptions via phone, and would call into radio giveaways using multiple phone lines. So she won like tickets to INXS, Tom Petty, Sting, which I actually had to sing Roxanne on the radio for. So we did see some free shows. Now, when you have a girlfriend that wins concert tickets and your mom is concerned you're going to too many concerts and how do you pay for them all, just say, "Mom, she won the tickets on the radio, okay? God." Or, "I sell Coke, God." So I've run the gamut from giant arena shows to the sweaty, stinky club shows where you can reach out and touch the band. I've seen arena shows where you can hardly see the band, and I've seen stadium shows where the artist makes you feel like you're seeing them in a club. Eric Clapton at Dodger Stadium, if you're wondering. I don't know how he did it, but maybe it was the giant TV screens. I don't know. I've seen shows I'll never forget, and some I'm sure I don't even remember seeing. I was privy to a local San Diego music scene that almost exploded after a casual reference in Spin magazine to San Diego as the next Seattle in the early 90s, following the emergence of Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and so on, and a band I love called Tad in Seattle. I've even played a few live shows myself in bands like PRI, Six String Outlaws, Rio, Duran Duran Tribute, Sun King Cult Tribute. I played with Still Ill, a Morrissey and Smith tribute, but never live. By the way, I still have that Duran Duran ticket stub. It's barely readable now since the show was 33-something years ago, and ticket stubs aren't what they used to be. After that show, I made a goal that I would keep all the stubs from all the shows I went to. I think I do have most of the stubs from nearly 20 years of going to live shows. There's some stubs I misplaced, some shows without tickets, and some where that careless ticket taker tore them apart sloppily. I started keeping my stubs in a drawer, then in a cigar box. Eventually, I moved them into a little photo album. When I moved into my new house, I found my ticket album in a box. I wish I'd kept some sort of journal and wrote about each show as it happened, but I didn't. I just have my stubs and my feeble memories. But enough of my yakking. Here are some of the concerts that saved my life. The aforementioned Duran Duran on the Strange Behaviour Tour 1987. First concert, Erasure opened. I also saw them in 89 on the Big Thing Tour, 2008 on the Red Carpet Massacre Tour, and at the Mayan Club in LA for the All You Need Is Now Tour, which David Lynch also notoriously directed in a webcast. So at that show, I was so close. That probably spoiled me for any Duran Duran show from here on. I'm never going to get that close again. Depeche Mode, the 101 Pasadena show, the legendary Depeche Mode show at the Rose Bowl that they also filmed and recorded for the album and movie of the same name. Also saw them on the World Violation Tour, 2 shows, 4 shows on the Devotional Tour, first leg of the Music for Masses Tour, Singles Tour, and Ultra Tour. Depeche Mode also helped foster my love of cascading curtains, backlighting, scrims, and giant banners. And megaphones, big orange megaphones. But I've seen Depeche Mode live 10 times, believe it or not. U2's Zoo TV tour, 2 shows on this tour, an arena tour with Pixies opening, and an outside tour with Sugar Cubes and Public Enemy opening, believe it or not. U2 may be the single greatest live band I have ever seen. Such charisma and live energy. They always put on a show, and I loved the multimedia aspects of the Zoo TV shows. Groundbreaking stuff. Midnight Oil at San Diego State. I didn't know much about these guys. They had a hit out with Beds Are Burning, and they were awesome live. I saw them again years later at a club called 4th and B in San Diego, and still great. A very political band, but a very great live band. James Brown on a military base, Camp Pendleton in the mid-90s. Amazing show, and I got to shake a legend's hand after the show. It really was an incredible show and made me a lifelong fan of the Godfather of Soul. Good God! Should I get in a hot tub? Ramones, saw them twice, Lollapalooza and opening for Pearl Jam as a surprise guest. I will never forget the lights going out and the good, the bad, and the ugly theme starting up. Then the Ramones eagle lit up at the back of the stage. I also bumped into Johnny Ramone coming out of the men's room at the Sunset Strip House of Blues at a Cramps or maybe a Reverend Horton Heat show. We were shocked to bump into each other. AC/DC. These guys always play what the people want to hear. The hits. It's the AC/DC show. Play the single off the new album, maybe one other, and just do the hits. The Cult are pretty good at this too. Other bands should listen to this. Do the AC/DC set list. It's what the fans want to see. Iron Maiden, Dio, Motorhead, great bill, great show, all access passes. Got to watch Maiden from behind the soundboard. Then went backstage and rated what was left of their beer and food. I met Steve Harris, the bass player for Iron Maiden and the guy that writes all the songs, but I couldn't really think of anything to say. He did sign a drum head that I found on the floor. Of course, Morrissey. I've seen him many times. I saw his first ever U.S. solo show in San Diego, which was one of the craziest shows I've ever seen. They actually had to bring the lights up and stop the show. The crowd was going so crazy. And I loved his rockabilly backing band. I've seen Morrissey 3 or 4 other times, most recently on the California Sun Tour. And there was a 91X appearance that's kind of legendary where he showed up and apparently he was going to meet people and sign autographs, but a fan tackled him and he left soon after. Oh, poor Morrissey. You never know if Morrissey will show, cancel, leave. But when he does show up, he usually puts on a good show. Back to the aforementioned 90s San Diego scene and bands, especially Rocket from the Crypt and Lucy's Fur Coat, my 2 favorite San Diego bands, with an honorable mention to Fluff and certainly a nod to the scariest band in the world, Deadbolt. Always put on great shows, and thinking about any of these bands brings me back to a really fun time going to a lot of local shows, getting to know a lot of the bands, and just, hanging out with a lot of cool people and a lot of bands that did a lot of shows together. The Cult always kick out the jams. Seen them at San Diego State twice. Casbah reunion show, cool to see them in a small club. Coors Amphitheater. The first San Diego State show was awesome. I was in like row 2, and the Cult were about to break up for the first time and in a very dark place. Of course, seeing them in a small club like the Casbah was great. Singer Ian Astbury threw his tambourine after the show, and a piece of it hit me in the chest, which I just sold on eBay, by the way. Iggy Pop, when I saw him, was in his 50s at the time. Amazing show, and he's just explosive. I'm 50 now, and I might look better, but I don't have that stamina. And seriously, Iggy's got some energy. He still does. The Cramps. I've seen the Cramps several times. Some good, some not so good. But the best shows I saw were the House of Blues Sunset Strip, Hootenanny, and on the Flame Job tour. SoCal legends Oingo Boingo. Saw many shows at San Diego and Irvine Meadows. I still miss the Halloween shows, but I got to see their last ever show at the Universal Amphitheater. They played for more than 3 hours and were still playing as the crew started to break down the stage. 9 Inch Nails. I saw them in Tijuana after the first album Pretty Hate Machine came out in a small legendary club called Iguanas. The loudest show ever, but it was amazing, and I pretty much thought I was going to die. Also saw 9 Inch Nails years later at the Universal Amphitheater with Jim Rose Circus Sideshow and Marilyn Manson opening up on the Downward Spiral tour. And also saw them on the Fragile tour. In Excess on the Kick tour were really impressive. I was surprised how good these guys were live and what a great frontman Michael Hutchence was. He claimed that morning he'd woken up with 2 women and one of his legs broken. He did limp around the stage, but I'm sure he told that to all the crowds. Tom Petty. So this was one that my ex-girlfriend won tickets to. I didn't want to go, but it was free, and I was really surprised. This was a great show, and I became a Tom Petty fan after that. Steely Dan, another show with an ex-girlfriend I didn't want to go to, but they were really great. Super tight live band. I liked them live, but haven't ever really been able to get into Steely Dan albums. Metallica were much better than I expected, and the Ramones were on the same bill, and it was a very male-heavy lineup, and they were good. I tried earplugs because I knew they'd be loud, but didn't hear the band, so pulled the earplugs. This was also the day of Devo incident. Devo were the surprise guest on the bill, and they hadn't played a show in forever. We had close seats because it was a first date, and I was trying to impress. A couple songs in, Mark Mothersbaugh, the singer for Devo, jumped off the stage and ran up to me and stuck the mic in my face. I was supposed to sing We Are Devo, but instead I yelled, "Woo!" The Violent Femmes. I saw several insane Violent Femmes shows in the early 90s, like crazier than you'd think, especially during songs like Add It Up. Saw early No Doubt open for them, I think, more than once. Social Distortion. Probably seen them 20-something times. Another SoCal staple band. Good and okay shows, mostly good. Favorite shows, I saw them at the Casbah. Great to see, again, another big band in a small club. Saw them in Vegas a few times, at a San Diego club called Soma a few times, and the Reverend Horton Heat, kind of in a similar vein to Social Distortion, and saw them a lot about the same time. Probably seen them nearly 20 times. Good memories of, a lot of great San Diego shows. But the same kind of shtick got boring after a while. The Super Suckers, also kind of in a vein with Social Distortion, Reverend Horton Heat, The Cramps, and some others. Another bunch of great shows at a club in San Diego called the Belly Up. Also probably seen them somewhere near 20 times. And for me, I think their peak was during their Sacrilegious Sounds tour. Eric Clapton played Dodger Stadium and managed to make it feel like he wasn't playing Dodger Stadium. David Bowie on the Sound and Vision tour at Dodger Stadium made it feel like he was playing Dodger Stadium. But the visuals were great. Stage show was great. And of course, it's awesome to see Bowie. I've only seen him once. Big fan. He might have been going through the motions a bit, tired of touring, and, a lot of talk about playing the hits for the last time. And this all further enhanced my love of scrims and backlighting. I've got some big show regrets too. I had 2 chances to see Johnny Cash. One of the shows was free at the Beach Band Shell in Oceanside, California before his career resurgence. 2 chances to see Nirvana, which I didn't take. Would have loved to have seen Duran Duran with the original lineup early on or after they reunited. Not going to see Joe Strummer on the Hootenanny tour a year or 2 before he died. Thanks for listening to the albums that saved us, and thanks to Anchor for helping me get started. Visit my sponsors, and if you're inclined to donate to help the cause, maybe I'll buy a record or something. Find me at #albumsthatsaved_us. Email me at albumsthatsavedus@gmail.com with feedback, criticism, ideas, albums, or bands you want to hear or talk about. Join the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/albumsthatsaveduspodcast. And there's a Facebook group as well. Find me on Twitter at twitter.com/albumsthatsaved. On Instagram at instagram.com/albumsthatsavedus. On TikTok at albumsthatsavedus. On YouTube at albumsthatsavedus. There's a running theme here. If you have any album suggestions, bands you want to talk about, let me know. And I don't know what's coming up next week because I haven't decided yet. If you like the albums that saved us, please also spread the word. Share the links, tell some friends, call in, leave a comment or question. And in the immortal words of Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, we'll see you next time.